welcome to the first episode proper of Armstrong and our city, sort of tech-driven city somewhere in Ohio. In this episode we're going to be building the Reservoir, which is going to be the main central focus of the entire city. Kind of everything is going to be built around this reservoir. The dam for this reservoir is going to be about here on the map. It's actually kind of cheating because remember I said that the original map had a reservoir. This is where the dam was on the original map, but I'm kind of rebuilding it. And so yeah, this is where the dam for the reservoir is going to go, and the reservoir then is going to fill up pretty much of the map behind it. So this dam kind of has three main purposes. One of those, it's going to produce a tiny bit of electricity itself, not an awful lot, but it is going to produce some hydroelectric power, and we're going to have a little hydroelectric station attached to it. But its two main purposes are that A, it acts as a body of water to provide drinking water for the population of Armstrong. Since we're going to be building a whole town here, we're going to need a lot more potable water. And second of all, it's also going to provide water for the cooling system for the power plant when we build that. It'll probably be in episode 3, I guess. The power plant needs a steady supply of water for its cooling system, and that's where it's going to get its water from, is from this large reservoir. So that's kind of what we're going to be building today. So if we jump into Google Earth, you can kind of get an idea of what these reservoirs are. This is in Columbus, Ohio. And I think Columbus, Ohio has 4 reservoirs overall. You can see there's one there, and then there's another one up here to the north. Both of these are there to create drinking water for the city. That's their primary purpose, although they also have a sort of recreational element as well. What we can then do is we can jump into Street View, and I can kind of give you a sort of slightly better idea of what we're going for. So you can see in the distance here, we've got the sluice gates down there, and then the sort of sloped hill up to the side. The sort of gentle slope that then leads up to the top of the dam, and up top of there you then actually have the water level. And then lastly, this is actually a image of the Allen Creek Dam from Wikipedia when it was first built. You can kind of see the general idea here. You've got a sort of 3-ish sluice gates. It's not a very large distance the water travels downwards, and that's the thing I struggled with in building this. The water doesn't travel down a very large distance, but it is, because of the flat ground around it, creates this very large reservoir behind it with a sort of gentle sloped grassy bank going up to the top of it. So that's kind of what I was sort of using as inspiration, and then from here we can kind of dive right in. Much of this video will be a montage, I expect. I'll probably try and interrupt to explain a few things while I'm doing at key points, but I'm actually a lot of just watching the build. I'm not entirely happy with the end result of this one. The main reason for that is that City Skylines doesn't like having smallish volumes of water traveling vertically down small distances. If you want, you can create a great big waterfall, or you can have a sort of gentle slope down, but to get a sort of constant slow trickle of some water through the sluice gates down like 50 feet or so is very hard, and doesn't quite work as well as I'd like it to. As a result, at the end, it kind of looks more like the water sort of arrives at the bottom of the dam rather than traveling down it. You'll see what I mean. Ideally as well, the top of the dam should be a bit lower. It's actually, the top of the dam is slightly higher than some parts of the town are that are far away. But once more, thanks to City Skylines water physics, I'm compromising a bit there. I'll maybe come back and try and tweak this to get it absolutely perfect at some point in the future, but it's going to have to do for now. I think overall it turned out okay. I'm pleased with some of the more precise elements of this. I think it does look right. I'm sure I could, as I say, keep fiddling with it, and maybe I'll try and come back and try and get the water physics of it all dead on. But this is about as good as I can get right now. Thankfully, a lot of YouTubers have made custom dams before, so I've got a lot of inspiration from some great YouTube videos. I particularly recommend it. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation here, but Acruis's dam, his Aurelia project, has a beautifully well done dam, and Dirty H's New Zealand project has a superb hydroelectric dam as well. Both those inspired this a great deal, and I'm largely copying what they did in many ways. This dam turned out to be one of the most difficult things I've built in City Skylines. I believe it took 4 separate attempts to get right, and each time I had to rebuild it all from scratch. The first time I tried using the dam from the game, my hope was that then I wouldn't have to sort of cheat in the hydroelectric element and it would produce it by itself, but the height wasn't enough, so either I ended up with no power or horribly flooding the water over the top and like everything that was downstream. I then tried the design that did kind of work out in the end, but I had too many sluice gates. That just led to mass flooding downstream as well. Third attempt went okay, but once more I couldn't get the water levels right, so flooding okay. So yeah, this montage that you're seeing is actually the fourth attempt at all of this. And to be honest, I'm sure I could have fiddled with it another 4,000 times to get it really nice, but by this point, I was sick of it. So that's kind of why it ends up being a tiny bit of a compromise. So that's pretty much all of my intro done. I'll leave you to the montage, and I'll pick up when I've got anything to talk about that's interesting. So now I've built the main dam. What I was kind of turning my attention to here was the series of water pipes in these outlets that are essentially forming the hydroelectric part of the dam. Obviously this isn't theoretically functional. It does become functional because I cheat in an asset that allows me to basically generate power out of a very small box that I then hide in one of these buildings. But obviously in principle, okay, without that it's not actually functional, but it becomes functional. The actual dam itself doesn't produce a huge amount of power. It actually produces a very small amount of power overall. I don't think it's something like 30 odd megawatts total power, which isn't a lot, but it's fairly realistic. I looked up sort of how much power a dam of this size could produce, and that was kind of the figure I came to. It certainly doesn't provide long-term power source for the overall city of Armstrong, but it does give Armstrong that sort of initial starting point that allows them, when the first residents move in, to have something actually powering their city. Obviously, though, it's probably also connected to a wider network grid and things like this. So yes, that's what we're building here, is the hydroelectric part of this dam, and you'll see me sort of putting the finishing touches to the dam in a couple of minutes. So here we are. Here's the complete and finished dam. You can see I've added in the sluice gates there to control the water flow. If it gets too high, you can, allow more through or shut it off if the water level gets low. Panning back here, we can see the hydroelectric power plant pumping out water. It's actually, I believe, a road maintenance building, but it's a hydroelectric power plant as far as we're concerned, which is the water coming out of that. Then we zoom back, we can see more of the overall dam and the intake for the hydroelectric plant. I think overall it turned out really nice. I do like the way water looks in this game sometimes. I think it looks really nice. You can see I kind of had to cheat in a water spawn point right next to the dam to get it to flow over properly. It's about the best I could do. But I think overall this looks really nice. And if we zoom right back out, you can kind of get an idea of what that's done to the overall map and just how much this has changed the face of this whole overall area, because that is now the overall reservoir that Armstrong is going to be built around. And you can see the small villages that were there originally as well. So you can see Squirrels Hollow and Junction, and there's Elliott right down there at the bottom as well. So that's overall what we've got, and I will pick up in the next episode. We're going to start actually building some houses in Armstrong. And what we're going to be doing is building what I'm going to call Settlers Park, which is where the first residents of Armstrong set up. So I'll join you in the second episode of Armstrong, which will hopefully be released soon.